Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm Rachel Cohn, one of the Beth Am Rabbinic interns, and here are my thoughts on Parshat Emor. When I was a middle school teacher, I was taught to see disciplinary issues somewhat like a canary in a coal mine. If a child was getting angry or acting out, it often had more to do with the community norms and classroom culture than the individual themselves. Before determining particular consequences for that student, I would first examine, is my lesson plan engaging? Did they have a challenging experience in a previous class that I was unaware of? Perhaps everyone had recess cut short and didn't have enough time to run around. Or maybe this child didn't get a good breakfast to eat. Examining the environment and community often yielded the insights needed to resolve the problem and enhance the learning environment for everyone, not just the person who had acted out. In Parshat Emor, we see a situation that I believe has certain parallels, the case of the blasphemer who was stoned to death. In a rare narrative portion of Leviticus, we read, "There came out among the Israelites one whose mother was Israelite and whose father was Egyptian. And a fight broke out in the camp between the half-Israelite and a certain Israelite. The son of the Israelite woman then pronounced the name of God in blasphemy. He was taken into custody by Moses, and his case was presented to God. God ultimately tells Moses to tell the rest of the people that anyone who was within earshot of his blasphemy is supposed to put their hands on his head, and the whole community is supposed to stone him to death. It's a graphic and violent end to the conflict, with little clarity about why such harshness was needed. Contrary to the Jewish principle of dan lakaf zechut, giving someone the benefit of the doubt, there was little attention paid to this man's backstory. If we dig deeper into commentary, the rabbis add layers to this story that unpack his possible motivations and reveal greater complexity. Sforno writes, for instance, about the phrase "Vehu ben ish mitzri," and he was a son of an Egyptian, that this is why he dared to curse the four-letter name of God. None of the Israelites would have been so irreverent. While this doesn't excuse his action, it suggests a layer of ignorance, of incomplete awareness of community norms. Perhaps if someone had taken time to teach him more about the name of God, he would have understood the devastating nature of his action. Rashi suggests about this man's father, the Egyptian, it was the same Egyptian who Moses had killed, because that section also uses the term ish mitzri. This person likely harbored resentment towards Moses that may have been displaced in his actions towards God. I saw this frequently in classroom teaching when a child's family was going through a rough time, or the child didn't have certain basic needs met at home. Their anger or confusion got directed towards a classmate or me instead. Again, it doesn't absolve the blasphemer of his guilt, but it does suggest that further healing and reconciliation may have been needed for Moses to serve as a leader for the whole community, given that he had that action in his past. And what were these two men fighting about anyway? Rashi adds that they were fighting about where he should set up his proper place in the camp. Chizkuni says he went to pitch his tent among the tents of the tribe of Dan, his mother's tribe, and the Danites rejected him because tribal allegiance was based on the father and not the mother. When he came to Moses complaining about the situation, the court upheld the opinions of the Danites. As a result of being frustrated, he cursed God, who had discriminated against him. Clearly, the community still had more work to do in figuring out matters of inclusion, insiders, and outsiders. While God made the ultimate decision about this person's fate, the community dynamics planted a seed for this uncertainty and discontent. The man was surely not the only one living in a state of in-between, of mixed ancestry, with lack of clarity about the space he could occupy in this community. Ultimately, I see this incident as a reflection of where the Israelites were in their community formation more than a reflection of this individual or God. They had more work to do in becoming a unified people. Tribal identities and group identities were still shifting. Community norms and religious rules were not clear to everyone. Until everyone could live joyously in the community, such that God's love was manifest in their treatment of each other, blasphemy would continue to be an indication of communal desecration, the inability to acknowledge each person as created in the image of God. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.